This is Ben Carson. If you're unfamiliar, he's doing an interview with Tucker Carlson. He ran for president back in 2016 against Trump in the primaries. He's a Seventh-day Adventist. He's a complete nutcase. He's also a neurosurgeon, I think. And he's really skilled, genuinely. But he also seems to think that, like, Joseph was a real person in the Bible and that they stored grain in pyramids, which they absolutely did not. Like... It's crazy, some of the things he said. Anyway, I want to listen to like his interview with Tucker Carlson. Bound to be fascinating. While we listen, we're going to play some Final Fantasy VII Remake. Should just be in the background. Won't bother you too much. You never played before. Let's listen to this. Look, he's got a portrait of a dog in the background. Aww. And what the hell is this thing? Is this like a chandelier made of elk horns or something? Like elk antlers? Is that what I'm looking at? What a... Tacky isn't even the word. I don't know what word. Schmoobly gong? That feels right. I don't know what it means, but it feels right. Oh my God. It's so terrible. Banjo music and all.
Do you think that she can win?
Absolutely. She can win. This is going to be a great test.
Oh, talking about Kamala Harris.
Of the power of the media. To take someone who formerly was universally disliked.
She was? When was Kamala universally disliked?
And transform them into a godlike figure. And they will use...
That's literally exactly what happened with Donald Trump. He is now considered a godlike figure. He's saying this about Kamala Harris?
Everything that they have to try to do that. The question is, are the American people smart enough to see through it?
Oh, yeah, of course. Because, you know, Tucker Carlson and Ben Carson, they're giving us the real shit. They're laying it down for us and being honest and not lying or propagandizing to us. It's everyone else that's propagandizing to us, but not these two guys. They're straight arrows. Absolutely.
And I actually think the American people are smarter than anybody gives them credit for.
You're so smart. You can see through this stuff, right? We're not lying to you. Everyone else is lying to you. And you're so smart that I know that you can see that. This is so transparent, right?
And I don't think that they are going to be willing to sacrifice what we have in this country, which is what everybody else wants, even though they try to denigrate our country, say we're systemically racist, we're unfair to people.
No, the United States is systemically racist. That's a factual statement. You know, there doesn't even need to be like a conscious racist actor in the mix for there to be systemic racism. In fact, that's kind of what systemic racism is. When there isn't a conscious racist actor, but the system itself is creating racist outcomes. So yeah, the United States is systemically racist.
If we were all that bad, why are all these people trying to get in here? And why aren't people trying to get out of here?
Okay, well, people are trying to get out of here, A. And B, people that are trying to get in are refugees from areas that the United States completely destroyed. Like Venezuela, for example. Like the United States did a number on the Venezuelan government, and the living conditions there are insane. It's also run by a dictator. That doesn't help anything. It's not just the United States. It's like all these undocumented immigrants, quote unquote, they're not actually undocumented immigrants. They're undocumented refugees who are applying for asylum status, which, by the way, is like a legal requirement. You legally must create a humanitarian corridor for refugees to reach a refugee center to apply for asylum status. That's why there is a, quote unquote, an open border in the first place, if you will. It's not open. There's just a humanitarian corridor. Like, my God.
Our country, say we're systemically racist, we're unfair to people. If we were all that bad, why are all these people trying to get in here? And why aren't people trying to get out of here?
Like refugees?
So we know that we have something that's very good. And I think the American people realize that, and they're not willing to give that up and trade that for something inferior.
Were you
I'm not sure what that means.
surprised? It's interesting that you said the media are the key for Kamala Harris. Were you surprised how quickly the media pivoted from basically forcing Joe Biden out of his job to...
But they didn't force him out of his job. He's still the president. he's just not running for the next term. Like, what?
Adoring and worshiping Kamala Harris.
No, that didn't surprise me at all. Because I've been watching the media for a number of years.
No fucking shit. Me too. Really? You've been watching media also? I watch media all the time. That's pretty much all I do. Sometimes it's YouTube Music. Sometimes it's YouTube itself. Sometimes it's dumb. You know what? I'm not going to be that guy. Not going to be that guy. Sometimes it's people who have a tendency to lie about certain subjects. But I watch a lot of media. He's been watching it for years, though. Maybe he's got me beat.
And I see how they're like a flock of birds. Have you ever noticed a large flock of birds and they all turn at the same time and they all go, and you say, how in the world are they doing that?
No, I don't say that. It's air currents, air resistance. Like the bird at the front of the V is handling the majority of the, the wind resistance, the air resistance, and the birds, the subsequent birds in the V have it a little bit easier. So when the bird at the front gets more tuckered out than the others, somebody will jump up in front and the other will fall back to the back of the V and make it easier for them to fly. So they're all flying in formation because it's easier to do. There's like an objective answer to this, and it's really cool. It's not like some mystery.
They almost have this cohesive communication, and they work together. I accused one of the media of that about a week ago, and they said,
one of the media?
How can you say that about us? Then I started talking about how they use the same language within minutes of the time that something comes up. Is it just a coincidence that they use the same language?
I'm not sure what he means by that. And what media, like which media did he accuse of that? He's using it like in a singular way. Is there a single media that he talked to?
Same phrases. They had to admit that there probably was some degree of cooperative work going on.
Like, who is they?
In there.
Do you think that there's coordination, or it's a conspiracy of shared instinct? They all have the same worldview.
Both. I think both of those things are going on.
Oh my God, dude!
But there's no.
This guy is so slow. God, as my mom would say, he's slower than molasses in January.
No question that they have lost their original intent. The media, the press, is the only business that's protected by the Constitution. And there was a reason for that.
The only business? There are no businesses protected by the Constitution. It's just if you are like reporting news, then you are protected by the Constitution. Like, what is he talking about?
It's because they were supposed to disseminate unbiased information to the people. So
they were?
That the people could determine what their will was, because the country was supposed to be run on the will of the people.
This guy has no fucking clue what he's talking about, seriously. So he thinks that the Constitution wrote in a protection for a business. The name of that business? Media. And the business called media was supposed to be protected because it was intended to report on what the will of the people is or whatever? Yeah, Fox News definitely does that. No, the reason that line is in the Constitution is because media, news reporters or whatever, journalists were being arrested in other countries for reporting on what totalitarian dictators were doing or whatever. They were reporting honestly, and they're being punished for it. That's why we have freedom of speech laws. This is just bizarre to me. Oh my God, this is a really, really tough battle. I remember this.
Now, the Europeans thought we were crazy. They said, you can't have a nation that's run on the will of the people. You have to have a monarch. You have to have a
what?
Ruling body. But we have demonstrated for a very long time that we can run on the will of the people, but that is being distorted significantly because the press has, instead of deciding to disseminate unbiased information, they have decided to put their thumb on the scale and to push a certain agenda.
I mean, the media has always done that. Always, 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 always. There's always been some media outlet out there who has lied and twisted things around and misrepresented. That's just like the nature of it. But you know what? It doesn't matter. You can't put people in jail for expressing an opinion. You cannot do that shit. It's just wrong. So anyway, the point is that this guy and others, you know, Republican people like this, completely full of shit, don't understand the first thing about how any of this works.
Which, when you think about it, makes little sense, because the agenda that they're pushing is more of a socialist, Marxist agenda.
It is?
Well, what does
And again, who is they exactly? What is he talking about? They?
socialists and Marxists do when they get in power? They control the media.
I thought he was going to say your mother, but okay.
It's almost the first thing that they do.
Yes.
So they're digging their own grave.
Oh my God, dude. What do socialists and Marxists do when they get in power? They control the media. No, that's what authoritarians do. Now, it just so happens that in many cases throughout history, socialist or Marxist presenting economies have been authoritarian in nature. Like Russia was, you know, communist Russia was authoritarian with Stalin. That's not good. But that doesn't mean that, like, by default, that's just what happened. That's how it works. That's not just a feature of communism, but okay.
How responsible do you think media coverage is for Trump getting shot?
Oh my God. I don't believe it was responsible at all. Not even a little bit. Media coverage was not responsible for it. It was Trump who was responsible for it, not the media coverage. Donald Trump brought everything to a fever pitch, brought the political discussion to such a point that, you know, people are like absolutely wound up like springs and can't get a grip on themselves because they're so angry. Primarily Republicans that are just out of their heads angry with, you know, everything. And that's why a Republican was the one that attacked Trump.
There's no question that they poisoned the atmosphere by saying, you know, he's like Hitler and he's going
Oh my, please.
to destroy democracy and is sort of Satan incarnate.
Okay, I talked about this previously, so I don't want to go down this road again too much, but I do just want to like address one quick thing. Just take me a second here. Brian Tyler Cohen went on Piers Morgan to talk about this exact thing because Piers Morgan this is the accusation against Democrats every single time, or anybody to the left, of hunting the homeless for sport. The accusation is it's their fault for getting people all worked up into a blood frenzy, not Donald Trump's fault. And Brian Tyler Cohen had just a great response to Piers Morgan on this subject. I just want to play like a second of it.
One trick that Kamala Harris missed in her speech, it was not a bad speech at all. But one thing she didn't do, she didn't allude to the assassination attempt on Trump. And it's only been 9 days since someone tried to murder Donald Trump and actually shot him in the ear, killing him by a quarter of an inch. Would it not have been a smart move in between calling him, you know, a sexual predator and a con man and a fake and blah, 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 very ad hominem stuff? Would it not have been a smart move in
Ad hominem stuff.
terms of unity had she just taken a moment to acknowledge the assassination attempt and say how pleased she was that he survived it, something of that nature?
Why did she have to talk about Donald Trump?
Piers, I find it so bizarre that the onus is always on the Democrats, is always on the adults in the room to create unity. Where was everybody for the last 6 years calling for unity when Donald Trump was president? And, you know, as far as the violence is concerned, I feel like any effort to try to pin, again, the onus on Democrats in terms of lowering the temperature in this country is just a testament to the fact that the Republicans are graded on the curve. Remember, it was not the Democrats. While we're talking about political violence, it wasn't the Democrats who laughed at Paul Pelosi being bludgeoned with a hammer. That was Donald Trump. It wasn't Democrats who called for military tribunals for Liz Cheney. That was Donald Trump. It wasn't Democrats who laughed at a kidnapping plot against Gretchen Whitmer. That was Donald Trump. It wasn't Democrats who called for General Mark Milley to be executed. That was Donald Trump. It Wasn't Democrats
was-
who
okay, but
posted
Brian,
a
but
baseball bat photo with Alvin
Okay,
Bragg and
but
threatened
Brian,
death and
but Brian.
destruction if he was charged. So in all of these
Okay.
examples, Piers, it is not the Democrats who've done this. It's not the Democrats who've validated the use of political violence as a tool in this country. And it
Except
shouldn't be
in
on
one
the
regard,
Democrats
Brian.
all of a sudden to be the adults in the room.
100% agree. Could not possibly agree with the dude more here. That was so well said. It's not on Democrats to do this shit, to fix these problems or whatever that Republicans created. Republican problems that were created by them. I don't give a shit about their problems that they created. I do worry about like the state of like political discourse like right now. I don't want anybody to die. I don't like political violence. Don't want political violence as like part of our democracy. That is an issue in my opinion that needs to be fixed ASAP. But that's not on me to fix. It's on Donald Trump to fix because Trump and others are the ones that created this problem in the first place. So I don't want to hear it. That's my point here with this Brian Tyler Cohen clip here. And as a matter of fact, he addresses that exact point about Hitler in just a second. Listen a little bit more.
For 8 years has screamed that he's Adolf Hitler. That's fairly violent rhetoric. You're comparing him directly
No.
to
That is not violent rhetoric. That's comparing him to somebody who was violent, not saying that he should be violently attacked or whatever because of that. He's definitely like Hitler, though, for sure.
absolute genocidal
not,
maniac
if Donald
who
Trump,
murdered 12 million people, including 6 million Jews in a Holocaust. So when you do that, that is violent rhetoric.
Piers, if Donald Trump acts like a fascist, it is not the Democrats' fault for calling him a
Well, you're
fascist.
saying he is-
That is
he
his
is
behavior.
Hitler?
With
No, he's like Hitler. Could this be any clearer? Do you have gummy bears in your ears? He's like Hitler, yes. Anyway, the point is, this is the line from Republicans right now. They're trying to twist it around and blame Democrats for the shit that Republicans did. I don't want to hear it. You have to find a solution to this. This isn't on me.
You know, when you have people who perhaps are not fully capable of controlling themselves, they can easily be influenced by that kind of activity. And it's just wrong. Now, I would quickly hasten that it's done on all sides in the political arena.
Oh, so he's acknowledging that it's not just Democrats, it's Republicans. That's generous of him, huh? That's a generous admission. No, it's Republicans, okay? Republicans are causing these problems. It's Republicans' fault. I don't want to hear it. Democrats did not do this shit.
You know, spending time demonizing other people because somehow they think that helps, and it does help for some people. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could actually discuss the issues?
Yes.
What are the policies that actually impact people's lives? If we could spend nearly as much time on that as we do talking about each other and denigrating each other, I think we could make some real progress. And I think we might actually find that there's more agreement than you think there is. I'd say 80% of issues your most radical left-wing and right-wing people would probably agree on. But we take that 10 to 20% and we magnify it and we make it the biggest issue to the point that people hate each other.
What do you think?
I think that is a problem. I'll give him that. Magnifying differences and all of that is an issue, sure. But actually, the real issue right now, in my opinion, in society is the fact that Donald Trump and his ilk, people like him, are whipping people into a blood frenzy. They're getting them worked up to a degree that we can't walk back from.
Think would happen if Kamala Harris got elected president?
I think we would continue to move in a very leftist direction. I mean, she was the most radical left-wing member of the Senate.
What?
She was even to the left of Bernie Sanders.
What? Oh, she's suddenly Bernie Sanders? Since when? Are you shitting me?
She was a co-sponsor of the Green New Energy deal.
Okay, you know what the Green New Deal is? The Green New Deal is this thing where back in, when was it? Like the 1930s with FDR, when FDR was president, The Great Depression happened, and it was a huge mess, and nobody knew exactly what to do or how to fix it. So FDR said, the government's going to be the employer of last resort. We're going to come in and put people to work on roads and bridges, fixing our infrastructure and everything else. If they can't find work elsewhere, you can work for the government. That was the New Deal. And the Green New Deal is, if you can't find work elsewhere, we will hire you to build renewable energy sources, such as wind turbines or like nuclear power plants or hydroelectric dams or whatever other thing. We're going to put you to work building those types of things. That's what the Green New Deal is. And it was proposed by like 2 people in Congress. Nobody seriously considered the Green New Deal practically. But okay, go on. Tell me more about how the Green New Deal is a communist manifesto or whatever other shit.
She wants Medicaid for everybody.
No way. Medicaid for everybody? Oh, no. Not that.
Mandatory
Medicaid. You must have health insurance. And if you don't, you're going to jail. Give it a rest.
No private insurance. As the DA, she was the one who basically didn't want to punish people who were guilty of horrendous crimes and repeat
What? She didn't want to punish people who were guilty of crimes?
offenders. And she wanted open borders. And all the things that we see happening, you can put those on steroids if she becomes the president.
But he's telling you the truth, see? He's the only truthful guy in the room anymore. He's so super trustworthy and truthful.
And I hope people will go back and look at her record. Don't just listen to pleasant words that will be interspersed with ridiculous laughter, but go back and actually look at what she did and what
ridiculous laughter
she has said. And I think people will remember why she got no traction at all.
Are you kidding me? She did get traction. I mean, it wasn't like a lot. Biden very obviously took it away, but she had traction
when she was running for president.
I'm really struck by that. I'm struck by how little popular support she's ever had, ever. So now, according to some polls, she's the sitting vice president, but she's the front runner in this race. How did that happen in a country that's supposed to be run by its people? That's a representative democracy.
How is she popular in a country that's supposed to be run by the people? The people want Kamala Harris. How did this happen? Are you serious? What the hell are you talking about right now?
Talk about a threat to democracy when the votes of 14 million people are just tossed into the wastebasket.
But that literally did not happen.
And a bunch of backroom politicians make decisions.
You're talking about the primary votes.
Right.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, that's just bullshit. That is ridiculous political spin.
Then we end up with somebody who, on their own merits, would never have been in that position. That's a real problem. And there are consequences for doing things like that. The reason that our country accelerated from a bunch of ragtag militiamen to the pinnacle of the world is because we had a process. And
it's because of our scientific development and our interest in, having a secular country. That was a big part of it. Secularism. But okay. I suppose war and ragtag group of warriors or whatever could be it.
It worked well and it reflected the will of the people. When you throw that out, you can't anticipate that things will continue to go smoothly. They won't. And, we've just thrown a big kink in the whole thing. And
a kink, you say?
Hopefully the American people will correct it. I think our founders were very, very smart people. And they studied every single governmental system that had ever existed in the history of the world. And they were eclectics. They extracted the good things and they excluded the bad things.
Sure, that's what you're supposed to do. And I agree. The founding fathers are very intelligent.
But one of the things that they noticed when they studied all of these governments is that all governments move in the same direction. Regardless of how they start, regardless of how lofty their ideals are, they grow, they infiltrate, and they dominate. And they wanted to give us a government that wouldn't do that.
Well, I mean, the government's going to do that, I suppose, but they want to give us government that could have checks on power so that they can prevent that type of thing from happening. Yes, I agree. But Donald Trump is actually trying to remove those checks on power right now. That's what he's doing.
That would leave
That's what Project 2025 is. That's the issue with it.
the people free and in charge. And that's why they work so hard. And as you know, it was very raucous, and there were a lot of different opinions about how to do that. And in the last convention in Philadelphia, Constitutional Convention, the whole thing was about to dissolve. Everybody go their separate ways. And elder statesman Benjamin Franklin, 81 years old, said, "Stop. Gentlemen, let's get down on our knees and let's ask God for wisdom."
This is revisionist bullshit if I've ever heard it in my life. Benjamin Franklin was effectively an atheist in practice. And he's also pro-abortion. Dude wrote down instructions for how to get an abortion. Let's just see if this is true. I want to make sure. He's 80 years old, so this must have been 1787. So there's apparently this guy named Brandon Pritchard. His name's Brandon Pritchard, and he's been spreading ideas about Christian nationalism. This is him.
Here's the deal. History is on our side. History is on the side of the conservatives on this issue. The first thing that happened at the Constitutional Convention was what? It was Benjamin Franklin coming in front of everybody. He was actually one of the most agnostic of them all, and said that we need to call plea to the heavens.
Are you serious? What the hell's happening?
To call plea to the heavens and pray for our country. And it was a Christian prayer. They had a Christian pastor come and say prayer. And as early as the 1980s, Ronald Reagan dedicated the country to Jesus and had a national day of prayer enshrined into our law. So I think that it's crazy to suggest that our country is not.
Wait, who did he say?
Ronald Reagan dedicated the country to Jesus and had a national day of prayer enshrined
that wouldn't surprise me.
Into our law. So I think that it's crazy to suggest that our country is not, at bare minimum, a Christian nation.
This is an attempt to rewrite history to be one in which the founding fathers wanted the United States to be a Christian nation when it is explicitly not a Christian nation, specifically and intentionally set up as a secular country. Here's an article on this subject. North Dakota State Rep Brandon Pritchard, that's who that was, appeared on a local television program called Ladies of Another View, where he attempted to defend his Christian nationalism by spreading misinformation falsehoods. This is November 29th, 2023, when this article came out. Pritchard appeared on the program to discuss the criticism that he'd received in the wake of posts he made on social media declaring that every member of Congress must submit to the gospel of Jesus, and that every conservative state should put into code that Jesus Christ is king and dedicate their state to him. Well, Benjamin Franklin did urge the delegates at the 1787 Constitutional Convention to pray for help in drafting the Constitution. It was certainly not the first thing that happened at the convention. And more importantly, Franklin's suggestion was ignored by the rest of the delegates. So no, the Constitutional Convention did not have a Christian pastor come and say a prayer. Okay, wow, that surprised the hell out of me that Benjamin Franklin did that at all. If the Constitution's authors had wanted to require a member of the Congress to submit to the gospel of Jesus, as Pritchard believes they should, they had a chance to do so. Instead, they banned any religious test for public office. Furthermore, President Ronald Reagan never dedicated the country to Jesus, whatever that even means, and the National Day of Prayer was enshrined into law in 1952 by Harry Truman. If, as Pritchard claimed, history is on our side, then why do he and so many other Christian nationalists keep spreading falsehoods in their effort to prove it? All right, so apparently Benjamin Franklin did say we should pray, and nobody listened. Like, it was completely ignored, apparently, by everyone else at the convention, at the last convention. Okay.
and they prayed and they got up and
They did not pray.
resolved their differences and gave us the Constitution, which I believe is a God-inspired document.
Who's surprised by that one?
But if we neglect it, if we don't adhere to it, then we will suffer the consequences. And that's what the battle is right now. The battle that's going on in this election is not about Democrats and Republicans. It's about people who want a country that is of, for, and by the people, and people who want a government that is of, for, and by the government.
As long as those people want Jesus involved in the government, that is.
That's what this is about.
So if
Dude, this guy's voice is like just wild. The fact that he's such a slow speaker, that's just crazy, man.
you were in charge of Donald Trump's campaign, is that what you'd run on?
I would run on that, and I would run on policies. I would not run on personalities.
Okay, that's not going to win Trump the election, but that is what he should be doing. I agree with that. He's only going to win if he slanders and lies and twists shit around about, political personalities and stuff.
That's a distraction.
It's very tempting with Kamala Harris.
It is tempting, but, much more tempting to me is trying to make sure that we show the contrast between those two systems, because they are very different. One of them will create a situation where the workers control their own lives, control their own budgets, and one of them is a situation where you turn everything over to the government, including your hard-earned wages.
Yeah.
What is he talking about here?
Yes.
And they decide what to do with them.
Okay, there are so many dead silent parts of this. It throws me off. It feels like I froze up or something. I guess that's just how Ben Carson talks. It's bizarre. Anyway, he thinks he understands what communism is, and he thinks he's describing communism when he says this, but he's not, and he doesn't. That's not communism. By the way, I'm a capitalist. That's not what communism is.
Do you know Kamala Harris?
No, I've never met her.
You do know Donald Trump very well.
I know him very well.
When did you meet and when did you decide you liked him?
Okay, let me give you, this is the one thing. You know how everybody has one thing that's respectable about them? Like Hitler loved dogs, right? And that's super respectable. Here's the one thing about Donald Trump that I find respectable. And I say this completely seriously. Trump stands by his friends, or at least he used to. This is from February 7th, 2016. It was a debate that was happening, right? And what happens in these debates when they start, they call up individual people to the stage one by one. They announce their names. They walk to the end, usually alphabetical order or something like that. And Ben Carson was called up, I think first, maybe? And he missed his cue. He's standing there waiting to go out, and he missed it. And they called the next person, and Ben Carson didn't know what to do. So everybody just walks by, completely ignoring Ben Carson. Watch what happens here.
Track.
New Jersey Governor Chris Christie.
Dr. Ben Carson.
So he was probably waiting for Chris Christie to get to the end of the thing. Oh, he was already there. I don't know what he was doing.
Texas Senator Ted Cruz.
So you clearly see.
So it was awkward. Nobody knew what to do, and Ted Cruz pats him on the shoulder. If it were me, I would have just walked out with Ted Cruz. And see, now they're telling him to walk. And so what happens next? Watch this part. This is Donald Trump now.
The floor director says fine, and then we see Donald Trump come around the corner. He too decides, you know what? I don't need to go on set. And there you have Rubio with a smile on his face, lapping the both of them. There's clearly a traffic block here.
He stood next to his friend. That is the most respectable shit I've ever seen, maybe. That's some shit that I would do if I were in Donald Trump's place. I would stand with the person who's in an awkward position. you know? Make them feel better. You're not the only one. We're here together. Not a big deal. That is some respectable shit.
Here you've got Jeb Bush talking once again to the floor director saying, what's going on? Why aren't they going on stage? He says, I don't know. He's getting frustrated and says, I don't care. I'm going to pass the two of them too. He gives him a slap on the shoulder.
And looks like, oh, this is awkward. Sorry, guys. Ugh. Jeb Bush, you know, everybody that passed by like that is a weasel, in my opinion.
Slap on the shoulder, makes that cringing face. He too goes on. Meanwhile, you can only imagine working in TV what's going on in the control room. People are panicking because these two won't make a move. So now these two moderators are ready to get the debate started. But have a look, Michael. They haven't noticed that 3 of their 7 candidates are not on the stage.
Wait, who's the third?
So then they say, hey guys, if you're backstage, maybe you'd like to join us. This continues for another awkward few seconds. And then finally, Ben Carson makes a move. Donald Trump still debating. Do I want to participate in the debate?
Oh, the third was John Kasich.
Oh, sure, it'll be huge. I'll come out. So he's still waiting there. At this stage, Chris Christie says, you know what? Where's Governor Kasich? No one has mentioned the Ohio governor. And at that stage,
I mean, the point is that, like, that's one of the most respectable things that I've ever seen from somebody, that Donald Trump would do some shit like that. He's a totally different person now, Trump is. Like, you can see how different he is now. He's gone completely, like, into his own head, where he seems to be, like, obsessed with himself and who he is and how good he is and everything else. It's weird now. Donald Trump is not the same as he was when he defended Ben Carson that way. But anyway, that was respectable in my opinion. Oh, shit. All right, keep listening here.
And wages.
Yes.
And they decide what to do with them.
Do you know Kamala Harris?
No, I've never met her.
You do know Donald Trump very well.
I know him very well.
When did you meet and when did you decide you liked him?
The first time we met was at Mar-a-Lago. And this was maybe about 10 years ago. It was before either of us got into the political arena. And we were just enjoying each other's company. And someone says, Rod Stewart just came in. He said, I don't care. This is Ben Carson. I knew what kind of person he was at that point. And
I believe Trump defends his friends, or defended. Again, different person. But I believe he defended his friends.
And, you know, my whole family was with me, my mother. And, you know, it was Easter program. And he just made sure that we were comfortable and that we were taking care of him, especially wanted to make sure my mother was comfortable. And there were all kinds of celebrities and important people walking around. And he was just trying to make sure that we were comfortable. And that's the kind of person he is. I noticed, you know, the workers, the people who serve the meals, the people who park the cars. He knows those people.
Yeah, he might. I don't believe that he treats his workers well at all. In fact, I don't think he's ever treated his workers well, in my opinion. I have no idea. I'm not one of his workers. But he's always tried to undercut people and swindle them. And he's always been like a scumbag in business, like a terrible scumbag. Nice guy, just person to person, just friend to friend, it seems, back in, you know, forever ago. But a terrible scumbag in business, and obviously a scumbag in politics too. And also another thing to keep in mind when it comes to business, Trump is famous for, you know, in building, in like architecture, in finance or whatever. Sometimes you pay contractors half up front and then half after when they're done. Donald Trump is famous for paying half up front to small companies, you know, little businesses that are trying to get off the ground. They finish the job, and then Trump just doesn't pay them, just doesn't. It's not like he's complaining about the job or anything that they did. He just like stops answering the phone, you know. That's one of the dirty things that Trump has famously done for like years and years. Fuck people over any way that he possibly can. Get every penny out of them that he can. And these people, you know, it costs more money to go to court to sue for that than they're going to get from the lawsuit. And they might not even win. I mean, he's sent countless people into bankruptcy by doing that. So he is a scumbag in business. But that Ben Carson shit, that was honorable.
Yeah, he knows their names. He knows their families. The same thing at Trump Towers when I went there. And he seems to be a genuinely caring person. It didn't take long before, he knew my family, knew their names. He's just that kind of person, as opposed to the very superficial politicians.
I believe that. I can see that.
Who are always playing to the cameras and couldn't care less about you once you got out of the camera range.
You've seen that too?
Oh, I've seen that many times. Absolutely.
But then you ran against each other in the Republican primaries, and it didn't seem to wreck your relationship.
No, well, we discovered pretty early on in the process that we were very compatible. And
okay, compatible, you say? Go on, I'm listening. You have my attention.
I was not a person who really particularly wanted to be president. Then
why the f*** did you run? Trump offered him a position as the director of housing security, something or other, HUD or whatever. And he said, I don't think I'm qualified to do it. Pick somebody else. You're not? You're not qualified to do it? Then why were you running for president? Are you serious?
I ran because there was so much insistence that I run after I gave the presidential...
he ran to raise his public image, of course.
Keynote for the presidential prayer breakfast. And I had over 500,000 petitions in my office. There were people every place I went with signs, run, Ben, run. And, I really didn't want to do it, but there was just so much pressure. I just said to the Lord, if you really want me to do this, you got to give me all the stuff a person who runs for president has, a Rolodex with all the important names, a lot of money, an organization. And I said, I don't have any of those things, nor do I intend to develop them. The next thing I knew, they were all there. And our organization was raising more money in a month than the RNC. It was incredible. But...
well, I guess the Lord didn't want you to after all, huh? This is so stupid. Secretary of HUD, I guess, is what Trump offered him. It's just so stupid, man. Anyway, tell me what you think about this in the comments. This is so interesting. This guy, I don't know how he talks so slow. Does he have a dial on his back that somebody accidentally cranked down to 0 or something? Like, what the hell is happening? Tell me what you think in the comments.